Arshi.
Hi, Professor. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
I think we can start now. Um, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the discussion and demo session on India Data Portal and India Pulse. Today we have with us Professor Ashwini Chhatre, who is the Executive Director of Bharati Institute of Public Policy, ISB, and Dr. Arushit Jain, who is the Associate Director of Bharati Institute of Public Policy. Today we'll be going through a demo session and just getting an idea of what this tool is, which can actually help us in our own research projects here at DMEO. I now hand it over to Professor Chhatre and the ISB team.
Thank you, Nicole. I don't want to take a lot of time. I will do a little bit of show and tell, coupled with some ideas on the vision and the ambition. I would much rather take questions from potential users like you and see whether either we can do something today to change the India data portal to make it more useful, or we can do something together tomorrow to move it in a direction that is more useful. So the India data portal is a ambitious exercise that, of course, is a work in progress and has to go a long way. It is envisioned as a one-stop open access portal for all publicly available data in India. And of course, because data itself is changing, evolving, new kinds of data is becoming available, this will continue to be a work in progress. We started small. There were two dimensions on which we focused, at least to get started to build the portal. We focused on agriculture and financial inclusion, coupled with the basic socioeconomic and demographic data sets like census and so on. And the second dimension on which we chose to focus our attention was journalists. The primary objective right now, if you look at the portal, is to persuade journalists to include more quantitative data and tables and visuals in their reporting, which will improve the quality of issues represented in the media, particularly with respect to food and agriculture and financial inclusion. But journalists are not the only constituency and category that we would like to target. An important category from the very beginning has been researchers, and perhaps an even more important category, but not necessarily anything we need to do different to target them, is administrators. One of the sort of important candidates that I have come across who need access to data are people who are implementing policies at the block or district level. So the block development officers, BDOs, deputy commissioners, these are people who need access to data, not just about their district, but also their place, the place of their district in the state or in the region and so on. And they don't have access to data unless and until they go to multiple different websites, download data in different formats, from sort of formatted macro-enabled Excel files to PDFs, and sometimes scanned PDFs and image files. What the India Data Portal has done and will continue to do is take data in all of these non-machine readable, non-interoperable formats and bring them in an integrated data lake so that each data set in the India Data Portal, and I will just show you in a minute, each data set on the India Data Portal can be connected to every other data set on at least one time period and at least one spatial level. So the data sets are integrated spatio-temporally, although not all the data sets are at the same spatial and temporal resolution. Some data sets are at the village level, other data sets are at the state level. But we have constructed the architecture of India Data Portal in a way that allows for this spatio-temporal linkages that will continue to allow people and continue us to add new data sets that not only increase the size of the data lake, but also increase the possibility of deriving insights from different kinds of data that at present are in so different formats and in so different locations that nobody has even tried looking at it together. Or at least some researchers have, but they put data together only for what they are interested in, publish a paper, and then the data is never available to anyone. And anyway, it's too narrowly defined. So let me first just quickly take you through the data portal. It's open access, free to use, with a login. So all of you should be able to go to indiadataportal.org and sort of run with it, play with the data, interact with it, create visualizations. There are a lot of things that are wrong with the India Data Portal, and we would love to hear from you. But I would much rather use this time to share with you the vision and ambition for the portal and hear from you how this vision aligns with your plans or your current projects and certainly future assignments. So I will share my screen and take a few minutes to walk you through the portal without trying to do too much because it's intuitive, perhaps not so obvious, but as you interact with the portal, things should become clearer instead of waiting for me to show it to you. Okay. Why is it's because Cisco has taken over my screen. Okay, at least it tells me that participants can now see what you're sharing. So I will just assume that you can see what I am showing you until you tell me otherwise. This is the landing page of the India Data Portal. You can sort of do text search and it will give you, there are no results for MG Narega. And these are the data sets that you will get. But I believe that you will find it most interesting if you look at the datasets tab. And there is a list of datasets that you can scroll through, you can sort of view details, you can go deeper into any one of these as much as you like, and find out what are the sources, what is the scope, what are the variables, and sort of basic summary of numerical and categorical variables in each of these data sets. There are sort of dozens of data sets already there, and we continue to add data sets literally at the rate of a few every week. All the data sets are also continuously updated, and the more you interact with the portal, the better you will be able to understand the depth of data that is available here. The claim of India Data Portal is not that we have all the data, is that it is all at one place in an integrated, interoperable format. You can visualize the data. Oops, go away. You can, this is somewhat simple. I'll just take Narega agriculture investments. This is something that has not really been used because Narega is largely seen as a program for roads and soil and water conservation or afforestation or building roads and temples and so on. But over the last few years, it has made significant investments in private lands in terms of land leveling, in terms of farm ponds, and so much over the years has been invested on improving productivity of land. And these are simple checks that you can make, and based on your choice, you can sort of visualize how different states have spent Narega money on investments in private lands. And you can choose between different kinds of visualizations and download the one that you like. It's getting in the way, but so this is a simple interactive and intuitive graphical user interface where once you know what you want to visualize, you can go to the settings button and change the color scheme, change the x-axis, change the title, and apply, and then save it either as an image file. Scalable vector graphics are useful in some formats, portable network graphics are useful for web deployment, and you can also download it as data. So whatever data is used to produce the visualization, you will be able to download it as a CSV file that then you can use to make a table to accompany the graphic and so on. So there are data sets, a lot of them. There is a facility to interact with the data, visualize the data, and download the data. And then there is our latest offering called India Pulse, which provides high resolution, high frequency data sets on different aspects of the Indian economy. These are the sort of big ticket items: agriculture, consumption, employment, and so on. And then within each of these, let's say if you look at Narega, households, demand, it allows you to produce a simple line chart, pick different time periods for which you want to compare, choose whether you want to show last year or this year or both, and pick specific time periods between August, September 2020 to March 2021, and see how NREGA demand changed between last year and this year. And you can shift between different data sets. You can assign comparisons across states. You can hide one or the other so that the comparison is more obvious. You can toggle on or off buttons that you think are not useful to produce a graphic interactively in order to first derive insights on what is happening in the Indian economy on these particular dimensions, and second, to download it and show it on social media, on your blog posts, in your reports, in whichever way you find it useful. Where necessary, you can add a data card, and you can add up to 4 data sets that allow you to compare, for example, NREGA demand with logistics, which is number of e-way bills, total number of e-way bills. Of course, you will have to make sure that the resolution is at the same scale, but once you interact with the data, you will figure it out that the e-way bills data is at the country level, whereas the NREGA data is at the state level. And therefore, you will need to convert both to the country level in order to compare these two. The last, certainly not the least aspect is that the data and the interactive visuals are available in 6 Indian languages, 5 besides English. Hindi is right now the most prominent language in use on the portal after English, but there has been a lot of traction in attracting people to use it in Marathi and Odia as well. We expect to add at least a few more languages over the next 1 year for those of you who are interested. But from a researcher's point of view, the data sets and the visualized aspects are critical in terms of deriving insights. And the India Pulse at ISB tab gives you the one-stop access to, right now, 22 different data sets, 6 of which are at the daily frequency, the rest are at the monthly frequency, and we are going to add 13 new data sets within the next 1 month, and we'll continue to add data from new sources to throw light on the dynamics in the Indian economy and patterns of recovery, not just at the national level, but also at the country lower levels. So that's the end of the show and tell. I'll take a few more minutes to sort of paint a picture of where we want to take this, where we want the India Data Portal to go. The first is, of course, the possibility of, let's say, sort of simple first-order machine learning algorithms to derive insights, to recognize patterns, to look for bright spots or dark spots based on multiple indicators. Once we have spatio-temporal data sets, even if not everything is at high resolution, we can use sort of simple machine learning algorithms to first generate insights, but next to sort of predict areas at risk, such as risk of disruption from drought, and we have rainfall data, for example, on the IDP and temperature data, or risk of economic downturn, risk of out-migration, and so on. So that is the first order next step ambition, that having so many data sets in an integrated interoperable data lake, we would like to build applications that sit on top of these data to generate insights that are directly useful. So not just in terms of creating a dashboard. I mean, there is a dashboard overkill. I mean, nobody wants to see, and certainly I don't want to see any more dashboards. But predictive analytics is something that we still continue to remain lagging behind on. The second, perhaps medium-term ambition is to work closely with perhaps organizations like DMEO to use this data to provide monitoring, so that these are data sets that can be updated and will be updated. New data streams can be added and perhaps expedited, so that simple things like monitoring SDG progress and achievements, or monitoring ease of doing business, monitoring progress in aspirational districts, monitoring progress not just in implementation, but also in the outcomes of priority welfare schemes like Ujjwala or PM Kisan and so on. To link these in a predictive framework so that we can then use these large interoperable data sets to provide direct input to policymakers on the effectiveness of implementation, and provide early warning signs of corrective measures, which perhaps the data can't tell what corrective measures, but it can certainly tell where and when. For that, we are sort of putting together pilots at the state level, but it is, I mean, once you have the data architecture, it is relatively straightforward to scale, given that we already have the architecture for data analysis in place. So those are the two ambitions. First is sort of simple predictive analytics using the data that we have. The second is more targeted monitoring exercises that allow for early detection of sites where intervention will improve outcomes. I'll stop there. I would much rather hear from you and take questions, so that I, of course, learn about what your interests are. And I certainly hope that we can find common ground and sort of pick one or two areas in which we can work together. So, Nicole, over to you.
If anybody does have any questions, please unmute and you can ask your question.
Professor Ashwini, thanks for this presentation. This is Venu from DMU. Wonderful to see you back here. Just one question: does the portal have? Yeah, I'm doing well. Just want to know whether we can combine different data sets together on the portal, and is that something that has already been there? So just want to know some details on that. And also in terms of one other question, sorry, let me put the other question as well. In terms of like a lot of these NSS data sets or other data sets have weights as well. So how do we factor into that as well? And if I can calculate something like, let's say, digital literacy combining multiple variables from an NSS survey, can I create variables based on the existing data set, variables that exist in a particular, let's say, huge survey of NSS or annual survey of industries? So if you can walk over those kind of things.
So some things are possible, other things we are easy to implement, but we don't want to assume, and there is practically infinite variety of things that we can do, right? We would much rather implement functions that are going to be used by people, at least some people, instead of just for ourselves. So some of this functionality is available. You can create new indicators using the data sets, or using the variables in the data sets. You can combine them in some ways to create new variables. But at present, you cannot combine variables from different data sets to create a new one. That requires sort of analytical expertise that we don't want at this point to leave to the users. And Venu, I hope you understand that this is an open access. Everyone can come and do whatever they want, but the computational pressure load is borne by us. So we don't want, there are people out there who will click a button if they see one. But these are computationally intensive procedures that require a lot of background computational power and energy. Think about emissions from energy that some people randomly picking to create some indicator will do. So we do want to be careful about how much of this functionality should be open to everyone. Data should be open to everyone, and it is. People should be able to interact with the data as a first order instead of sort of only consuming data. They should be producing insights from data. But advanced analytics, because of the computational power and energy resources that it takes, we have not yet made available. That is where the second and third ambition that I'm talking about, where we have a institutional user, that's much easier, and we should be able to do that. So I have another question. Is it customary in these meetings for people to keep their cameras off? Not a single, I can't see even one of you. So I'm very distressed that are you people or not? I mean, I know Venu personally, so, and I know Nicole exists. There was another hand up, but Nicole, will you please handle?
I think it's Anand.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ashwini. So I just had one simple question that in case when we are looking to kind of do a time series visualizations, let's say of combined visualizations of two data sets, what is the process that the portal adopts to kind of standardize? So for example, if there was one district X which got broken up into X1 and X2, what sort of background weighing is being undertaken to ensure that the comparability in visualizations in such cases?
Anand, that is a long conversation with no satisfactory answer. You know that. So right now we are using the local government directory that is continuously updated by the Ministry of Rural Development. But even that is not satisfactory, right? Especially for longer time periods. For example, we have groundwater series from 97 or crop harvested area production and yield for the last more than 20 years. And there has been a lot of change. What we have done, at least as a stopgap first order arrangement, is to use the 2011 census as the anchor around which we have sort of combined all the spatial boundaries for data to be combined. And when the 2021 census becomes available, we will sort of recombine the data or make both of these available. We are also working, this is something that we are talking to, so there's the Tata Cornell Initiative and ICRISAT. They have this VDSA MISO data, which is a large number of indicators across different sectors that they have recombined to the 316 districts in 1966. And that provides us with a 55-year time series. So we're talking to them, and right now the Cornell lab, Prabhu Pingali's lab, is updating that data to 2019. So we will be able to put data from 1966 to 2019 on about more than 200 indicators across sectors for those 316 districts that were there in 1996. there is no single satisfactory solution to this problem. There are so many, I can sort of really go on and on because so NREGA data is at the block level, agricultural census data is at the tehsil level. And in many states, the tehsils and blocks are not coterminous. They have different headquarters, they have different polygons that are only mildly contiguous. So we have panchayat level data and we have district level data for two data sets for which the middle, one is tehsil, one is block, you cannot compare. But you can compare it on panchayat level and district level. And we will have to live with that.
Yeah, Professor Ashwini, Abhinash here from DMEO. I logged into your India data set, but you are not giving the full data set, no? It's only giving sample. Why so? So we have to request by email to get the data.
Yes. You have to request as of now if you want the full data sets. The data portal is not a data dissemination strategy. The data dissemination, all of this data is available on Government of India websites. That is where we have taken the data from. And we will make it available on request. But like I told Venu, people, if they find data, they will download data. And then it will be a 1.2 GB data sets that they download. They don't know even how to open it because it will not open in Excel. And it's a waste of bandwidth. It's a waste of energy. They can interact with the data as much as they want. But if you want the whole data, you have to be a researcher who knows what to do with that data. So we want to put that firewall where people do not download data, and we don't care if they have the data because we have provided the source and they can go and get the data from the source if they want. But I don't want them to be using up power bandwidth.
Thanks, Prof.
And frankly, we would also like to know who wants the data because they are potential partners.
Any other questions, please unmute and speak. I might not be able to see your raised hand.
This is Anthony here, Professor, from DMEO. So as I am, I think others are also waiting to see have a feel of the portal and then ask questions. But I have one curiosity. I can understand the survey data which is already there and some bit of analysis coming in. But the daily data like the NRG, etc., how do you actually do that? Is it?
How do we do what? How we get the data? The data is available on different websites.
So is it an API based pull-in or?
Right now, there are no APIs available, so we just scrape the data.
That's a lot of human labor.
Right now, it is automated. So we have automated this process. As long as the website structure doesn't change, it is not a problem. So it is being done it's automated. So the code runs on its own. It only breaks when the website breaks or the server is not accessible.
Thank you.
So Anthony, weren't you the one who gave us the 2010-11 agricultural census data?
I was not, I think.
Oh, okay. I was mistaken.
Hi, Professor. I just had one question. So when it comes to all of this data, can we link it? Like, is there a possibility to link it with more sophisticated visualization tools like Tableau to perform more analytics? Is that possible?
Yes, of course. I mean, the data is already cleaned and interoperable. We know what are the common points in terms of spatial and temporal resolution. It can now be, you can do whatever you want with it.
But for that, we'll have to request the data and then upload it separately into Tableau, right? That is.
We would be extremely happy. I mean, we already are working with DMEO. If you want it, we are here to work with you. Just let Nicole or Alok know, or Disha. We have been working with them on different aspects. This is certainly an area with very low hanging fruit. If you want access to cleaned data that is already on the portal, that's not a problem at all.
Thank you, Professor.
If I can clarify, Professor, that could be Mr. Syriac. So he's the one who gave you agricultural census data. He works in agriculture, I think.
I see.
Yeah. It's a common confusion with Christian names.
I apologize.
No, absolutely not.
Nicole here, since we have some time, could you give us an example of some uses of this data or something that has been done at ISB which uses different data sets based off the India data portal, just some use cases, some research questions that have been answered using the data that you have here. Thanks.
So there are quite a few. The India Pulse portal is itself a use case of how different kinds of data that are interoperable and linked in a common spatial temporal framework. So what you see on the India data portal is, of course, only one data set at a time that you can visualize as a line chart. But at the back end, the idea is that we will use pattern recognition algorithms to look for signs of economic recovery. So that work is going on. Another is to create indices. So one index that we will be putting there, perhaps as soon as next week, is a real estate index. This is work we are doing with housing.com. And together with them, ISB and housing.com has produced a real estate index that we will put there. We are working with CMI. So this becomes a use case where public and private data can be combined to generate insights. That has never been done before. Another example would be NREGA data. So we are looking, and right now everyone is, of course, interested in looking at the degree to which NREGA can relieve distress. And of course, all other questions right now are less important. But in the medium to long term, we want to see if NREGA can act as a sort of climate response initiative or mechanism. And if places where drought probability is high, the association of NREGA investments can, one, reduce the probability of drought, two, because droughts are inevitable, one way or the other, they will become more intense and more frequent. Can an advanced prediction of risk of drought allow us to use NREGA to prevent distress? Even if we don't prevent the drought, we can prevent the distress. Now we have 15 years of data on NREGA. We have 100 years of data on climate, on temperature and rainfall. We are trying to bring this together to look at how the risk of drought is something that can be predicted, let's say 30 days into the monsoon, because that's when you find out. The thing is, the drought happens, or distress from drought happens in February, March, and April. But the drought happens, we know that there has been a drought in October. We have 6 months of preparation to do, but we don't prepare. Now that kind of advanced analytics will allow deputy collectors or district collectors to plan their NREGA investments to prevent distress rather than respond to it after the demand comes in. So we are already working with that. We have presented some preliminary results to the DBT mission as to the cabinet secretary as a policy as NREGA as a policy mechanism for climate response. So I mean there are several of these that we are looking at. I'm not able to monitor the chat, although I see that there is some blinking red dots there.
There are no questions in the chat. That is just Dr. Arushi and me in the chat. Any more questions? So if there are any more questions, you can write to Dr. Arushi or you can reach out to me regarding these tools that we can use for our more research. I would like to thank Professor Chhatre, Dr. Arushi for coming here and demonstrating this, making us think about how we can use these tools in our own research. It has been really good. Thank you all the participants for joining. I think we can close the call now. Would you like to say anything? Yeah.
Would you give me a minute, please? This is Anthony again. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Now, I was thinking that now in the quarterly estimates of GDP, the CSO uses certain parameters to extrapolate the sectoral growth rates. They say they are the benchmark indicators. Now, if we have a systematic grouping of those benchmark indicators and if they are arranged in the portal, then it's extremely easy to aggregate the numbers and get possible figures. Would you be interested in that?
So we are not doing it right now.
I can give you the data, the indicators that they are using for this, so that now each sector has 2-3 indicators used, and we can find a way of combining them and
Projecting, yeah. Yes, absolutely. So what we are doing right now, so Anthony, the trick is what you see in the India data portal is the current instantiation that is directed towards journalists. So it's at a very low level, basic interaction. But what I want you to understand, all of you, is the ambition behind the data and the back end. And that data is available to you to imagine what we can do. And then we can do it together. So don't be restricted by what you see on the portal, but think about what is behind and what is possible. And we are very happy to do that. So for example, what we are trying to do here is first to match the indicators used to construct GDP, sectoral indicators, match them to proxy indicators from other sources. And then, because we have a longer time series for many of these indicators, especially quarterly GDP, we have a long-term indicator. Can we use machine learning to identify patterns and then predict what is going to happen? That requires a research framework that is not yet ready for prime time. First, we have to sort of build that analytics internally. And that is the kind of work that we should do together before we can share it with anyone.
Thanks, Nicole, for the time.
You're welcome.
I think
Okay.
Paresh sir had raised his hand too.
Hey, Nicole. Actually, I'd raised my hand, but subsequently, Professor Ashwini had already answered that question. As Anthony sir pointed out, I'm definitely looking forward to trying the portal and exploring the data sets. 2 or 3 key features that I would be looking for in this portal. Probably World Bank portals have spoiled us for choices. So one is definitely the relationships between the data sets. Often we figure out the relationships are very fuzzy. As you said, you are using pattern recognition softwares to make sure that those relationships are established. So probably that is something that I would be looking forward to how these relationships are established. For an example, I do a lot of this analysis on a budget, India budget every year, the scheme names are used differently every time. So how do you link all this different budget documents? Often they are in disparate 102 demand for grants Excels. So those kind of exercises, definitely, I don't know if your portal allows us to do that analysis pro bono, or we might have to send those data sets to you, and then the pattern recognition software works on it. So, but definitely this relationships between data sets has been a big challenge for me when working with various data sets. The second thing was we have had certain tools where the user itself can upload data sets, use some fuzzy lookups, draw some, as Fatima was talking about, it also has such challenges of Tableau and Power BI where you can yourself create the charts. So not sure if the portal allows us to do that, but if it allows that, you upload your own data sets and do analysis, that would give more, probably more applicability for us. So those 2 quick comments, but yeah, thanks for a great presentation. Looking forward to the credentials for the portal.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all the participants. We'll reach out with more questions and hopefully a few research ideas and reports using the data. So thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Professor.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Bye, everyone.